Dr. Hardiman is one of those academics who mentors and evaluates the work of younger scholars. Here she will allow Brother Reggie Mabry to introduce his thinking and findings so she can evaluate it and propose ways to promote it to other scholars. Before I begin, I want to introduce her book, The Resurrection of Truth from the Chains of Falsehood, Kindle edition by Hardiman W. Joye, Religion and Spirituality Kindle eBooks are rare Amazon.com, and her bio. Dr. Joye Hardiman is a brilliant conceptualizer, an inspirational speaker, and a gifted storyteller. She is an educator, scholar, and cultural activist, and is a frequent keynote speaker, a sought-after conference participant, and an accomplished institute designer. She is the daughter of Flash and Thelma Hardiman, and the mother of Salmach Hardiman. After attending the undergraduate writers' workshop at the University of Iowa, she earned her BA from the University at Buffalo. She received her doctorate in Applied Literary Studies and Urban Education from the Union Institute and is an alumnus of Harvard University's Management Development Program. Dr. Hardiman is currently the executive director of the Evergreen State College Urban Campus in Tacoma, Washington, and a member of the faculty. She is a founding member and an international executive board member of the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilizations. As a summer Fulbright scholar, she conducted extensive field research in Egypt, India, Ghana, Kenya, the Yucatan, and Trinidad on the African contribution to world civilization using literary and popular culture analysis as her methodology. The results of Dr. Hardiman's research on ancient Egyptian literature and worldview has been published and referenced in both scholarly works and popular forums. She has been invited to speak on ancient wisdoms, contemporary solutions, the trials and triumphs of spiritual warriorship, the multifaceted role of women of African descent from ancient to contemporary times, and You Can't Kill the Culture, dialogues in the African creative continuum by a variety of national and international academic, community, civic, and fraternal audiences. She has also served as a consultant to the Tacoma Art Museum and the Seattle Art Museum. Dr. Hardiman has been an active member in Washington State's higher education institutional, curriculum, and pedagogical reform efforts. She was a core facilitator and faculty for the Washington Center for Improvement in Undergraduate Education's Community College Minority Student Success Project, Ford Foundation Cultural Pluralism Summer Institute, and the FIPSI National Learning Communities Dissemination Institute. She has worked both regionally and nationally with boards, districts, colleges, administrators, faculty, students, and staffs in numerous areas of professional development. Bio: Uncrowned Community Builders. In this segment, Brother Reggie will unpack recent information on ancient North Africa to her and other scholars who may be interested in that. Modern North Africans are not the ancient North Africans, though they are related. But the ancient North Africans are distinct and called the Maghrabi people. I want to thank the team of TransAtlantic Productions for uploading this to their resource site.
Hello, Dr. Hardiman. This is a long time coming. I am so glad that you're here today visiting with me. And so I'm excited. Let's get this out of the way. I'm so excited about some of the work that we might be doing later or and continuing. Um, Let me just see if I can blow this down. Change this 1 second. Yeah, kind of. So, we continue our conversation about unpacking uh, peopling and geography in preparation for this talk that I may do to your whole college in Tacoma, Washington. And so I'm really excited about that. For our audience, Dr. Hardiman, can you please just tell us a little bit about yourself and your work?
Um, okay. Well, first of all, Reggie, it is always It is always a joy to my heart and a delight to my intellect to have conversation with you. Uh, um, our conversations make my ancestral connections feel really clear, and I feel gratitude. So let me first say that I feel gratitude about this conversation. Who I am. I'm Dr. Joye Hardiman. I am a founding member of ASCAC. In my passion and my heart, in terms of my work, I have been the executive director of the Evergreen State College I was the executive director for over 20 years and have been a member, a scholar in residence, I call myself, at the college for over 45 years. And it's an interdisciplinary higher education institute that organizes itself around the theme and then explores it from different perspectives and different worldviews with the idea of basically coming up with some sort of doable act, some sort of community-based project that can help to make the community's lives and the students' lives more better. So I'm really excited because this year I'm teaching a class that was focusing on ancient Kemet, but now because of my conversations with Reggie, has expanded from a Kemetic focus to a Pan African focus because of all the new information and the new thoughts that have been revealed to us in the last 20 or so years. So I'm having this conversation with Reggie because I want to speak the truth. If I'm going to teach about ancient Egypt or our classical African civilizations, it's important that they be based on on fact and primary research, etc. And I have done primary research in Kemet, in Egypt, in Ethiopia, Uganda, Mali, Senegal, the Gambia, Ivory Coast, South Africa, um, uh, Cuba, Haiti, Jamaica, Mexico, and other parts of the world. So I'm just saying, as a primary researcher, I am delighted to have a conversation with Reggie because of his deep work in primary textual analysis and museum and artifact exploration and in gene and the new and then the expanded thoughts. All right, so that's what it said. That's it. I'm excited to be here because I'm looking forward for this opportunity for expansive thought.
Okay, great. So we are going to hopefully oh wait, first. And so your PhD, your
Oh,
dissertation, your expertise is in what?
yes, please. Thank you. My dissertation is in ancient it was in that time ancient Egyptian literature and urban education. My doctoral work was studying what was the impact of the on adult urban Black learners when they were exposed to and asked to write an autobiography from an ancient Egyptian perspective, which basically didn't look at sin and tragedy and guilt and shame and blame, but looked at lessons learned and wisdom earned from the hills and valleys of their lives. And so that was my dissertation. I wanted to see if ancient wisdoms could be used in contemporary times and found out that indeed, they could and should.
That's really, really exciting and impacting for reaching the new populations that are studying these fields and kind of breaking colonial scholarship and finding ways in which African cultures and other cultures can impact society and new learners without the kind of hegemony that uh, we get from typical European scholarship, that peoples around the world did nothing until uh, the Greeks told the story, right? And then later the Europeans and the Americans told the story to highlight themselves and minimize other groups of people and the achievements of people as they were transforming themselves to something that they call whiteness, which is scientific racism. So, with that said, um, so now we've had a lot of attacks from younger generations, generations underneath me, on great scholars like Dr. John Henry Clark and Dr. Joseph Benjo-Cannon, and not even knowing the great work of Leo Hansberry and other um, African American scholars, and completely dismissing the work of African scholars like Obenga, Dr. Obenga, and Dr. Diop, and uh, the many scholars that are uh, participating in UNESCO that are Africans. And so, in this period after 1974, after the UNESCO symposium, UNESCO now is adding the voice of Africans who have primary materials, uh, uh, reliable thinking of their own cultures, can speak for Africa and speak for periods and times that Europeans can't speak to. They're the ones with the languages. They're the ones who can um, how can I say? Then they're the ones who can contrast what European scholars say in linguistics and other lenses uh, with theirs because they sit on the ground. And so since 1974, we've been getting a lot of contrasting and a lot of new information. Um, a lot of indigenous terms that are usually pushed out. Like, for example, when they talk about ancient Egypt, it's from the Greek vocabulary. Even the Nile that we speak is Greek, right? Many of the great, even some of the great names of the kings have been transformed into Greek names. And then we have this whole notion of uh, the land when they began using the word Kemet, it can only be the black land. It can't be something that I've been working on, the black realm, where they venerate blackness in their culture, from the Apis bull to pottery to the names of some of their netchers, uh, to iconography and symbolism. Um, Europeans have stripped that out of the vocabulary of colleges and universities. And so we are going to talk, hopefully, about global citizenship in to the college, where we are going to bring in some new vocabulary, some new thinking, some new tools, some new ways to address information, um, and so I'm excited about that. So where I want to start this conversation, and I'm going to put this on a big screen, is I'm not going to read it all, but I sent it to you, right? Really, in the last 2 years, we've been getting some new, exciting information, uh, largely DNA information, that uh, talks about the populations in Africa. Now, Africa has a deep time, and then it has a colonization period. So it has a deep, and a colonization. The deep time is the time in which humanity was born in the in Homo sapiens sapien, and leaves Africa through. um, let's say, uh, the land bridges or ice bridges, or the shallow waters, and they leave to Europe as Homo sapiens. They leave to the Levant over a land bridge, and they leave possibly over Yemen, into Yemen, across the Red Sea, and in that time as being Homo sapiens sapien, they're meeting other humans that are not Homo sapien, like the children of Heidelbergensis. Um, and we know those as the Neanderthal and the Denisovans and what they call the hobbits, those groups, and genes are transferred. We're not going to be talking about the deep time period. We're going to be talking about uh, a period of the deep, which is the Green Sahara period, and uh, as it interfaces with its children populations. So we're going to be doing that instead of, but we do know in the deep time period, humans migrated from the south, which they have called the sub-Saharan, which there was no sub-Saharan at that point, and they ultimately find, because of the climate shifts in the uh, world, um, they migrated to what you call the Green Sahara. And they spent thousands of years in the Green Sahara. And then, as that climate changed, they migrated to the river valleys, um, which the surviving river valleys, because there were many more river valleys. And um, they they then moved to places in East and West Africa, um, and then the we have what you call the aridization, where in that period of the aridizations you have new cultures and civilizations, and then of course you have then the Greeks coming, the ancient Greek geographers and the earlier Greek spokespeople, or they come into the, and then they begin to write the story in their words. Let me just check my messages, make sure everybody can hear me. I think from the chat, everybody can hear me. So, up until recently, we didn't really have too much. We had thoughts about what North Africa is, and the problem is that the modern North African population, people always thought that the ancient people looked like them. Inclines, not necessarily skin color is a cline, uh, but in all phenotypes, in all different type of times, they look like what you call the modern North African. And that set the stage for colonialization, to paint a picture of what the all the areas in the ancient time of, let's say, the Holocene Green Sahara period look like. So, but modern science now, they they have been able to improve their access and information on DNA. And we've recently had this article, these two, there are three major articles, but the Shunaran article, the Nuiwat specimen article, and we've had another great article on North Africa that talks about now the peopling of North Africa. And skin color has always been an interesting factor. Um, it should not really matter to humanity what people look like. It should matter about their values, their contributions to humanity. Um, but modern colonization, uh, certainly in academia and in popular science, has changed what people look like. So this paper that I'm talk to you about is about ancient North Africa and what we now know about ancient North Africa. And I picked skin to talk about because that's such a hot topic. So I curated my article to focus on all clients, but doing skin to make the point that the uh, modern North Africans that they're there, they are really distinct from the ancient populations. So I'm just going to read a little bit of it, and then we're going to move to more information. Maybe another quick paper, and then move to some more interesting, more visual information. So North Africa's role as a crossroad for migration, adaptation, and cultural development is well established, but only recently have ancient DNA and large-scale genomic projects provided the means to directly trace clinal structures and admixture across the Moroccan genome, citing the Moroccan Genome Project Consortium, the Schuneman study. Early 20th century models posited periodic replacement, often linked to the spread of lighter skin or Eurasian haplotypes. Today, today's research, however, paints a much more complex indigenous-centered picture of Maghrebian Saharan prehistory. Um, uh, okay, so materials and methods. Ancient genomes were recovered and sequenced from a range of archaeological contexts, including the Central Saharan Takori site, mummified Libyan burials, and notably the new pottery coffin of the Nuri Wat man from the Old Kingdom, right? Um, let's just say, let me just move on to ancient population clients and genetic structures. Genomic data demonstrate that early Green Sahara populations, as sequenced by the Schuneman study and others, represented long isolated North African lineage, genetically distinct from both recent sub-Saharan and Eurasian populations. Principal component analysis and rare variant analysis confirmed the lack of substantial gene flow from sub-Saharan Africa throughout the mid-Holocene. And that's an important part because we can look at the what they are calling the sub-Saharan gene flow from the mid-Holocene, but this would be um, wrong if you ignored the fact that Africans were born in the Rift Valley and ultimately made it to North Africa and Northeast Africa and Northwest Africa, and then moved in more earlier times. But because academics often pick a period and don't give the full periods, then that can actually be missed. But the Nuriwat sample is an Old Kingdom Egyptian that they were able to extract DNA from, and it gives us some exciting evidence. It's only one sample, but it's 80% North African Neolithic ancestry and 20% Mesopotamian, right? West Asian, if you think Asian means the people that we see today in Asia, right? Um,
Right.
not not their parents. So now we know that if they were 80% North African, then we can have to pose, well, let's look at the people of North Africa now, right? Now, when they say sub-Saharan, uh, um, sub-Saharan, well, sub-Saharan is a construct that they actually created and that they control because the Sahara has changed where it was in different time periods. Because of climate, the Sahara and the desert shows up pretty recently in humanity, so it wasn't what you call the sub-Saharan, but that shows up more recently. So again, they kind of control the narrative, but now we have new evidence. So let's talk about skin pigmentation, Um, all major genomic scale studies, including those of Nuri and Sherman specimens, consistently find that ancient North Africans were dark skinned, lacking high frequency European light skin associated variants, right? Osteometric data in rock art reinforces results validating that the expansive Maghrebi and Saharan populations from the Pleistocene through early pharaonic Egypt had dark to black skin as the regional norm. Um, then we know from the Shinnerin study is that sub-Saharan, so now the sub-Saharan populations of Nubia uh, and and Sudan, they ultimately come from um, places like Nuri and deep into the Sudan, and they come up in the time period of Shabaka Pianki and Tahaka, and they come into that region as a particular population, right? Then, um, discounting the earlier populations that we find were in the area from the Bedarian groups. And then those groups all interface with what were interface with the North African population groups. So a lot of thinking on Eurocentric sides and even African centered size has to change because now we can look at North Africa as a parent. So, what do you think about that?
Okay. Okay.
So I just want to shout out
I
some of the people that just came in and was watching. Brother Garfield, he is really, 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 really good with biblical studies. He's transforming a lot of not in well in geography too, but he's transforming um, with real evidence the biblical story. And so he's on, and I have lots of other great people on. So I have a community that's on, and I have Pan African Designs uh, and Apparel, who's reminding me I didn't get there yet, but talking about the decline of skin pigmentation. But what are your quick thoughts?
First of all, my quick thoughts are is that how critical and how important this information is, and how this perspective is totally revolutionary. And I could understand why when you went to challenge that Egyptologist, the director of of the new museum, why he because this is pretty. I
Oh,
mean, it's
you saw
fact.
that?
It's not speculative. It's not
You saw
policy.
me talk to Dr. Zahi Hawass.
Yes. Yes, and perhaps you could share with the people who are listening what exactly happened to that, because this is what happens. I mean, it's a perfect example of what happens when you confront lies with the truth, and they render the speaker of lies speechless. And that's what I'm looking at. This is like, wow, this information is not only eye opening, but it's going to be very hard to refute. Just like that gentleman could not refute you when you asked him, did he know what his genomes were?
Exactly. And so now there is a change from uh, colonial scholarship to new evidence because almost all of us are almost playing on a level footing. And so I had to remind Dr. Zahi Hawass that as you attack sub Saharan, you need to look in the mirror because you are distinct from the ancient Egyptians, because particularly the Nui specimen, because you have sub-Saharan ancestry from the period that you actually attack as the Black Pharaohs. And his attack on noses and lips, his skin might be lighter, but his nose is bigger than mine, and his lips are more fuller than mine. And so I wasn't trying to be mean spirit. I was trying to talk to the world. It's also interesting. So I'm excited that you actually saw that, because even in my communities, as being an independent scholar and talking to the communities that are online, they don't see how important that was, that conversation, right? I marginalized to be Afrocentric. I'm not even though I'm an independent scholar, not a scholar. Uh, I'm not an expert, but I do talk to experts, right? And I have conversations and often inform experts. And so that's what I'm doing today. Um, so just going on a little, yeah.
And I think also, brother Reggie, what is revolutionary? Because I'm talking from a point of view of everything I listen to. I don't put through how will the scholars accept this. What I listen, my lens is how can I make bring this to my community? How can I get my community to understand this? To understand that that scholarship is colonialized. Just even that is really important because those of us who have embraced or at one time embraced Western truth, we looked at it as liberation. But to realize that, in fact, Western scholarship has nothing to do with liberation, but has or illumination, but has everything to do with colonization and power and dehumanization. That is the purpose and the function and the nature of that scholarship is very threatening to many academics, many black academics, because when you put your whole life into into one thing and find out that that one thing is diseased, that it's a rock that has maggots and stuff all in it and out of it, then you sometimes want to fight the messenger as opposed to the message.
Well, certainly a lot of that goes on. And then, as you know, as an academic, uh, 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 how can I say, these museum studies and books and studies are really well funded. And then the problem is when new information comes and wipes that away, there's chaos in academia. It certainly um, changes the it becomes problematic, and so the gatekeepers now have to be a little bit more. Um, I want to say that they are going to defend their work, and their work is not defendable. They're going to defend Petrie, and they're going to defend eugenics. They're going to defend breasted. They're going to defend a lot of colonial type scholars that whose work is being completely overturned, and then they're going to be apologists to it and try to salvage what they said in at the expense of propagating the new information. So we have those actual things going on, but some the days are clearer, that we have access to a lot of the materials that they have access to. So what we
Right,
go ahead.
right. Oh, and I was going to say, and just one other thing, because I want you to continue with this content, because this content is so critically important. But I do want to say, to talk about this notion of community scholars. That's what our scholars were. Our scholars were Jednas who taught for life. So this notion of this space called the academy, I mean, that is a trap. That is the Kool-Aid. So I think what is happening now, so which is so excited about this conversation and the work that we're planning to do is that we're not talk. The academy is not our audience. My audience is the community. My audience you're gonna just think about what's gonna happen when my students who are working black adults, many of them in leadership positions in the community, get this notion of the fact that the academic studies that they've been so told were desirable were colonial traps to steal their minds and destroy their families. They're going to be so empowered with the decolonization, and I can just see them embracing the notion of the Green Sahara as an alternative notion, to one that has been made into a desert and a wasteland in the physical space, but in their own minds and hearts. And so I am all for community scholars. I just really want to put that punch in because that's where the scholarship actually
Well, we
happens.
have to
You know,
reinform, and sometimes we have to have some of the our scholars who have been pushing Egypt, ancient Egypt, over other classical cultures and civilizations, and it's kind of Egyptized their work. And so this new work, um, it, and many of them, listen, they've been very successful in academia, but and they've also been very successful because they have become our experts, and then they were sometimes they overdo it and propagate myths, misconceptions, uh, and sometimes and many times that in fact harms us because they're too centric in what, and not in Africa per se, right? But in Egypt, and that become and so they don't talk about some of the things that we might talk about today, and we continue to talk about. Well, let's look at the parents of Nubia and Egypt and and West Africa and Central Africa, which is the Green Sahara. So let's talk about that. And then, yes, what they did in the civilization of Egypt was amazing. However, they didn't do it by themselves. They drew heavily from the Eastern Desert um, and the Western Desert. When I talk about the Western Desert, I'm talking about populations who left the Green Sahara and went down into the uh, uh, places like Libya in Algeria and even Morocco, and had confederations. And those groups of people moved ultimately because of the conditions into into East Africa, particularly, and integrated with Africans that were already there. And so Egypt is not, as Dr. Hawa says, Egypt is only in Egypt. Egypt is a child of other civilizations. I have who just joined the chat is Smash Rockwell, and at some point you need to meet Smash Rockwell. Uh, Owens,
okay.
he's him and Christopher Wizards, who's also on the line, are some of our best. And then there's Jedam Ak from Dr. Ricketti's school. They are some of our best meta nature teachers, and they all use primary evidence. So in the field that they call Egyptology, these young people have been able to find inscriptions that tell a complete another story if you want to continue studying Egypt. But today I'm trying to broaden the global citizenship concept, so I won't be talking too much about ancient Egypt, not too much, but I will bring it in. So what we find is and I have to do this because we have this thing in our community where they say, well, what do the experts say? And a lot of the experts that we find are, how can I say, they are infected by the colonial disease. So, for example, I'll bring in Egypt, this whole concept of the black land, that that the blackness in Egypt, the color and the culture resulted from the Nile silt, right? But we find no Nile,
Yes.
we find no Nile silt god. We find a deity or high principle. We find none of that. We also find that during the period that the land was called Kemet, there was a great famine. So there wasn't a lot of fertile soil. There was nothing to grow on. The Nile was irregular, sometimes drying and sometimes overflowing, and that people actually lived, a mile or two or up to 6 miles away from the Nile in that place. And so we find more evidence of the culture venerating blackness on other things, such as the people themselves, because the people are the ones who are creating these concepts. The people's beliefs, like the Hep bull, the Apis bull, and the Menware bull. Though, and we have to understand that this was a cattle culture, and they separated themselves as cattle. And you can go on Smash Rockwell's show, where Christopher Wizards and others are on, and you could see primary data as in their arguments about uh, there's no black, there's not no black soil god. They very rarely mention blackness and soil. You can't even see those two things. So we find that the Europeans got this from Plutarch, Plutarch's thinking, symbolic thinking, and they have embedded that into their thinking. But anyway, I'm talking about here. I am talking about North Africa, and I'm talking about a particular type of human population that was isolated, uh, uh, but found itself in the Green Sahara period and beyond, which is called the Maghrebi. The Maghrebi is a population that is biologically distinct from the Levant populations. It's an African population, and it's not only skin but hair and teeth, right? Skeletal frames. It is distinct from the light-skinned people in the Levant. And so this population is what we call the North African population that will find itself, if you want to talk about Egypt, you will find itself interfacing with what we call ancient Egypt and Nubia. Uh, and the Egyptian population, ancient, was very scarce because of the Nile was a very dangerous place. It overflowed, it underflowed. There were wild animals there. Uh, it was unpredictable in the early part of the time period. It was a very dangerous place to have settlements, right? And there were more trees, there were more insects, more diseases possible. So the Nile is not the place until too much later that people migrated to. So you're not going to find huge ancient populations along the Nile. You will find populations, but not huge ancient populations. And these populations are people who came from the south, and then ultimately there, with the periods that we're talking about, is the periods in which they came from the aridization, and the aridization meant that many of the animals that we see in Egypt iconography, they were never really in Egypt, right? For example, the ostrich. The ostrich is one of those uh, deified or venerated animals that were not there, right? The elephant, um, the elephant maybe came and left, went to the south, right? The giraffe, uh, but they have iconography in ancient Egypt of animals that were not there during the pharaonic period. So it's now time to kind of like assess all of that. But the Maghrebi man, right, and woman, the Maghrebi, they were these populations, and so a lot of Egypt, uh, Egyptologists, and even our own people associated blackness with sub-Saharan, but we don't have to do that because it says today's Maghrebi and broader North African populations remain deeply anchored in this climb. Data from the Moroccan Genome Project shows that even with increased Eurasian and sub-Saharan input in the last 2,000 years, a majority of the North African genome reflects ancient region-specific haplotypes and underlying dark skin pigmentation. So What is your thoughts that now we have evidence that the people of North Africa were brown and dark and not like the modern populations? What's your thoughts on that?
Um, well, I would love to. There's no way that people in the chat can throw in a thought. Is there? Because you've got such an amazing group of people on the chat. I would love to hear somebody's thoughts about that. I'm just sitting here trying to take it in, and and again I'm processing through everything about how do we get this information out? How do we make sure? How do we get people to understand this so that so they're not walking around in darkness? And so for me, just honestly, I'm still in my head trying to figure out the movement. I mean, I wish there was a map, or not a map, a visualization, a drawing that showed, because I now have to realize, wait a minute, the first migration, there were there was the Homo sapien, but there were also the other people out there that weren't necessarily Homo sapiens, and so I'm just trying to I'm trying to visualize the
Okay,
flow.
well, stay with me.
So that's just something down the line. That's just
Yeah,
something down the line. Because with your scholarship, if you ever did a flow diagram or something, so we could see how all these people, um, uh, I mean, because we're talking about millions and millions of years, and here we are in this contemporary reality that's so short, that does everything in terms of 2,002 centuries, and we're talking billions and billions. It's a little hard to take it all in
well,
when this
well,
isn't your place of
so
scholarship.
right, fine. So work with me. So I'm what I am
Yes,
is what I'm trying to do is just talk about the deep time, and uh, I will bring up references to help. So here are my references for this particular paper. Now I saw somebody in the chat say that the Maghrebi population is a confusing population. Well, we get new terms with new data, and whatever the name is, Maghrebi or whatever the name is, we know that this population from Morocco to Egypt in the ancient times were distinct from the Levant populations, and so this is a beginning. We don't have any written data. We don't have any spoken information. What we have is hypotheses and theories, but we have classification. So they have recently classified this population that was distinct from other populations for a long period as the Maghrebi. So I will use that term because that allows me to interface with other people who are writing and talking, so that they have an idea of what I'm talking about. But I'm not going to create a new name. I'm going to create a name that they had not put emphasis on, but they now are using this. So I'm going to move away from this, and I'm going to see if I could put in another. Uh, uh, let's see if I can put in another um, paper. So let's just put in another paper. And these are my papers, but my references. Um, I'm not an expert, but I am talking to an expert. so,
you
um,
are an expert. You are an expert. You have to keep saying that. You are an expert. If you're not an expert, why am I listening to you? I'm listening to you because you're brilliant, because you have new thoughts, because you've done deep research. Really, you are the expert in this field. You okay? Not the. You are one of the experts in this field, this new field about the Green Sahara and the use of phenoms as opposed to illustration to show origins, and you're an expert in you are one of the experts in inquiry into the parent civilization. You just really have to stop saying that you're not, because you're negating everybody who's on the. channel and stuff who's listening to you, who's getting
Okay.
information.
So
So, okay. Okay. So
okay.
continue. The next
So people are
article,
speaking
please.
for you. So I love it in my community. They are saying Dr. Hardiman seems like she's being bombarded with information. It doesn't seem like she came for this, right? Uh, let me just see. So,
Oh, no, no. Whoever wrote that, I totally came for this. Oh, I totally came for this. I totally came to be bombarded so I could be clear. I just don't have the vocabulary and the research experience and memories that your audience does. But no, no, I am not bombarded, and I
yeah,
am not.
see,
I am not. I am not. I am. My ears are up and out. My tentacles are out. I'm taking this all in. I'm just trying to
yeah. Well,
understand it.
it's always interesting. My community. The difference is for anybody who's joining, Dr. Joye Hardiman, Joye Hardiman, a long time professor in college, over 45 years, right, is interfacing with her own college and is bringing people like myself in and others to speak to new students about geography and about peopling, and in my particular work on Africa, and trying to clarify and interface with her on some of the thinking that she's had over the years by listening to some of our greats. But what's happening is there's new information. So she's asked me to show her what the new information is, right? So
Right,
so because
right. And show me the new information so that I can communicate it to my community.
exactly your communities, your
Right.
academic and
T's, yes. I've got multiple ones. Right,
yeah.
right. And they go from K-12. So everything you say, Reggie, hopefully I after you come and speak, the students will be speaking about it in the barber shops on Thursday, in the beauty shops on Wednesday, in the clubs on Saturday, and the pulpit on Sunday. That's the goal.
Right. And it's going to be,
Because they people that
yes, it's going to be a slow process,
yeah.
but my most
Oh,
important
very
thing
slow.
is to say that North Africa with new information is different than what we have believed North Africa to be by the colonizers who separated the
Right.
uh, uh, peoples, and even in more recent times separated an Arab North Africa versus a Black North Africa, as if these type of things existed uh, uh, thousands of years, which these are transplant thinking. So whoever said that about she's being bombarded with information, you are wrong, right? I know you. I was just surprised that you said that because if you knew anything about me, I talk to scholars all the time, right? How long have I known you, Dr. Hardiman?
Oh my God! Let's see. When I met you, when did you start working at the Schomburg?
1984. I think you.
So I met you before that, but I probably met you in probably 1980.
Well, I was a student of Black Studies in 1982 going on, and 83 is
Right.
when I began working with Dr. Leonard Jeffries. 82, I was working with Professor Scobie, and but 83 on, I began to work with Dr. Jeffries, and roughly about 1986, I reached out to you in 1986. Why did I reach out to you? At the Schomburg.
Was it the second ASCAD conference that was in Harlem? Is that where we
Oh, that's
made the
where I met
connection, our
you.
first
But when
connection?
I was working in the library in the Schomburg Center, I was on the editorial board of the Schomburg Center,
Right.
and
Yeah.
yes. So when did I end?
Yeah, 1980. Yeah, around the well, the late
Right.
1980s.
So at some point they were doing a symposium at the Schomburg on ancient Egypt, and they had all male scholars. And
Right.
so what happened?
So what happened was you invited me
Hmm. Hmm.
um, to basically present along with Milana Karanga um, uh, and um, and I think somebody from the Oriental Institute. You insisted that there be someone on that was a woman, and you also were very brave because my analysis at that time was a cultural analysis and not a race analysis. So it was not exactly the mainstream, rah rah, but it was an important and and you recognized that and asked me to do that, and it was and that launched my national and international work in scholarship, and I since have gone on to take that speech, which was called Comedic Studies, what it was, what in the past and what it should
Hmm.
be. Now I can rewrite it now that we're having this conversation, which is a continuum because it's talking about what Comedic Studies should be. And in my speech, I talked about, why I called myself a chematologist as opposed to an Egyptologist. And now I have to write another one to say why I call myself a Pan African rather than a Kemet centered one. So it's all about evolution and growth. And so that's why I'm listening so intensely because you're giving me an opportunity to grow, to evolve my thought. That started and now in the Schoenberg when you asked me to present. I just realized that. Wow, look how beautiful the ancestors are. Always wanting us to expand and grow.
So in that period in 1986, actually I had more academic power. Well, I was from a library perspective than
Yes.
in the actual academy, right? So as a young
Right.
person, 23, 24 years old, but in the Schomburg, I had uh, grown so that they would rely on me for names of people that were doing work that they did not know about. And then I had a special relationship with Dr. Clark, and Dr. Clark would how can I say, he cemented it because he helped me get the job there, and Dr. Leonard Jeffries, and then he called the Schomburg when Bishop Tutu was coming, and he says, "Look, I need an escort, and you have one that I can use, which is Reginald Mabry, and I want him to escort me, be my escort." And arrange everything that you need. And so they called me into the office. I thought I was in trouble. And they said, look, we just got a call from Dr. Clark, Bishop Tutu, Bishop Tutu, Archbishop Tutu is coming to the Schomburg, and he requested you. And I think that you need to, and Dr. Clark was everything to the Schomburg at that point. And they said, I think you need to fix your personal schedule or whatever schedule, and you are going to be there, right? I said, yes, I'm going to be there. I am gonna be there. And so outside the Schomburg, I'm waiting, and here comes Dr. John Henry Clark coming by himself, walking down the street, and says, "Oh, Reggie, I'm glad that you're here. Let's go. Right? I got some work to do." So so there with Dr. Clark and it was the director Howard Dotson, who was my chief and boss at that time. So I was away from Dr. Jeffries in a whole nother world, who they helped me get this job to be a interface between communities of scholars and the Schomburg for their programming when I could, right? And where only when they asked me. So uh, so getting back to this title: Material Culture, Cave Art, and Bioanthropology in Ancient North Africa Integrated Analysis. So I talked about the Maghrebi man. I talked about just a few things about Klein's, specifically about the Maghreb man, and I could give you much more resources about what they look like, what they ate, uh, any evidence of burial, any of those type of things about. Well, let me just those things about their biodiversity that they are. Uh, let me say they are distinct from other populations. And so I can talk to you more about that, but I just wanted to summarize it. Now what I've done is okay, that's the bio piece. And so now I'm going to integrate the bioanthropology with material culture. So um, we know some things about these people because of their material culture, and that is looking at their cave and rock art pottery, their burial monuments, their toolkits, right? And so this gives us an idea of how these people actually lived, right? And um, my evidence says that it powerfully supports genomic and osteological models of population continuity, regional clines, and skin phenotypes, right? And again, inherit from the Maghrebi and the Saharan people, because I'm just focused on that just for this, because we're talking about global citizens in a particular, well, citizens in a particular place, right? That will later have large influence
Right.
on the Greeks, because the Greeks and the Romans will find themselves in North Africa, right? And they will begin to highlight their cultures, and that's what people do. I'm not blaming them, but modern academia has not adjusted to try to figure out what was the other side of what they said. So, materials and methods. What should we look at? Cave and rock art, documentation and stylistic analysis of more than 15,000 individual figures, animals, and symbols from cave and open or air source sites across Algeria, Libya, and Morocco. Right? We should look at that, the cave art, to see how the people painted themselves, drew themselves, right? Showed their daily life. We should look at pottery tools and burials, right? How they buried themselves. Did they depict anything on pottery as a kind of movement from rock art to pottery, to portable art? So portable art will find itself in pottery, will find itself in uh, how can I say, figures, right? What about the tools, and how did they bury themselves? Okay, so we try to integrate all of this stuff. So cave art is a bioanthropological source, depictions of individuals, right? Don't need to read all of that. Symbolism and society, right? The scenes show
Right.
collective rituals, dances, livestock management, and funerals, right? Of these people before the Greeks, right? Before the Romans, before the Europeans, right? Before the Americans, right? These people were doing this. Cognitive and social implications. What do we say about that? The complexity of cave compositions requiring advanced planning, pigment technologies, and multi generational participation reflects fully modern symbolic thought and supports the idea that art and language arose together in Africa. We have this complex assemblage of all of these materials that are here and nowhere else in the world, right? At this time period, right? So pottery, burials, and tools, pottery and toolkits, innovative pottery types, axes, and adornments, right? So we find them in particular areas, burial monuments, right? Megaliths, tumuli, cis graves, a diversity of types of ways in which they buried their people that sometimes made them distinct, right? Then we have cave art, the reconstruction of ancient identity, cave and rock art from sites such as the Sicilian Jair, Tadrat Arcus, the Morocco's Tangier caves, show many times people being brown and dark. So we know how they represented themselves, right? They did not represent themselves as being evil, devilish. They represented their own people as they saw them. Artistic and biological expression, biological data and environmental adaptation. Uh, so these caves were ritual landscapes. There were their temples before there was a temple ever built. And in those temples, they put in what they respected, right? So, okay. So generally, I wanted to just give you an idea of some of,
Okay, now just one question, Reggie. So these are all things that are in the Green
oh
Sahara.
yeah, that's
I mean, when the site that we're digging from is the period and the place of the Green Sahara.
uh well, when they did the Nuriwa sample, that is in Old Kingdom Egypt, but they pointed to the North Africa. The period there were many periods before that led up to the Green Sahara, but we know that these are the groups of people that were migrating into those regions because of climate, right?
Okay. So let me just get the train because it says right here on cave art and it says open air sites from Algeria, Libya, and Morocco. So what happened was that there was all this movement from the Rift Valley and things went out and people were moving in and moving out and moving in and moving out. But we're talking about the development of and they came in at different time places and stuff. So these people that we're talking about that populated Algeria, Liberia, that's north. Okay, how big was the Green Sahara? Went from I know it went from north. I know how far it went north. How far did the Green Sahara go south?
Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna show you, right? So I have different
Okay.
ways in which I want to show you, but I am going to begin to show you that. So give me a second, um, and let me just pull up something and take something away. But I did send you the references to ancient genome from Green Sahara reveals ancestral North African lineage. I did send you whole genome ancestry of Old Kingdom Egypt, and I'm going to stop my screen for a second uh, and pull up something. Okay, so let's talk about the Green Sahara. Okay, so and while I'm doing that, I'll take a peek at the chat, see what the chat is talking about. Yeah. Oh, I have to pull up Google. That's okay. Great. Okay, so let's begin to talk about. So I'm trying to, because of the person said that I'm bombarding you with information. I'm very sensitive to things like that, and sometimes people do bombard you with information, but everything that I'm giving you is sourced. So I've already sent it to you so you could unpack it, right? Because this
Right.
is just,
Right. But
yeah,
yeah.
this
Go
is
ahead.
just a kind of a overview and to interface with you on points that you are interested in or you might want more evidence in. Okay?
Yes. But what's beautiful about this and what the people who are watching on the chat is that they're getting and we do it's a lot learning in the process. You know, in a lot of my work when I talk because I base shifting paradigms. That's what my major work is. How to from negative images to positive images, from from falsehood to truth. So what's happening, and that one of the things I say we have to do is we have to image and shift the premise. An image is to get a is, and then what is, and then get nation of what really is to examine the false, examine the truths, and then shift the premises. We can live more in the truth. What people are watching and what is what I'm going through is because what I'm having to do is unpack all these old images I have out,
Mhm.
that have been deceived to the truth, and them with this new data, which is a whole thought thing. I mean, so that's why I'm listening so intensely, because I'm shifting paradigms, because that's what you have to do if you're going to accept that the Sahara, that it wasn't all even the notion. I'm still processing the notion of the black land. I used to talk about that. I used to teach that. I used to say they call it the black land because of the black people and because of the blackness of the Nile. I have to stop. So what I'm processing, time I'm hearing this, I have to stop saying that. I have to take that out of my curriculum and replace it with, they call it the black land because because of the belief systems or the people. I'm still not sure why they called it the black land, but I know for sure it's not because of the Nile. So that's what's going on. That's so beautiful, is that we are documenting not only your content, but we're also documenting my taking in new processing new knowledge, which is a beautiful a way to look and see what's going on, both a factual level and a meta
Yeah,
level.
yeah, listen, I mean, a lot of people are processing new information, and the funny thing is that some of the most recent studies, um, I actually brought it to the communities, the online communities, not all of them, and not all of the conversation, because there are people that are better with DNA and SNPs, way better than me. That's not my field. And there are these young people in Gozi and Gullah and other people. And then there are skeptics, and it's okay to be skeptic, but when people disagree, it's like that, and show, okay, disagreement is okay. What are your sources to disagree? Right? So we have conversations on biasness. Yes, Europeans are always going to be biased, but if you can't name the African scholars that are actually doing the work, who we talk to, Gardine and Shamaka Kite, right? We actually, not them, people like myself and uh, now Uncle Cat, right? They're talking to the experts. I just don't get the disagreements that people have when it's only in their own mind, when they're not talking. So if I have to talk to a Dr. Gardine, or I have to talk to a Dr. Sharma Kikite, which I have, right? Or I have to talk to, then I have to, then I'm the student, right? And I have questions, just like you might have questions today. And I'm being bombarded with facts. And then I have to kind of like regroup and then humbly ask, well, is there any references that you can share that's going to point me to this, right? And but our communities are, all of our communities are just religious. So let's talk about the Green Sahara, since you mentioned how big it was. So,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
so let's just do this, because now we're talking about geography and uh, interfacing with the populations that we talked about, right? So we're going to talk about the geography, and then we're
Right.
going to go back in a particular way uh, to this. So this is just one source, but I have multiple sources. But I'm going to show you. I'm start with this one, right? Evolution, Sahara human periods. Okay, they talk about geography and climate, which is important. They put in assumptions that early hominids used the Nile corridor to reach the Middle East by the Sinai, but all through Nile water, but although Nile water would later support agricultural communities, the total lack of rain meant that there was no vegetation or wildlife on the banks to sustain migrating hunter and gatherers. Similarly, the southern route, which entails crossing the Red Sea to Yemen, which I talked about during Ice Age, would face a similar arid barrier. The Arabian Peninsula after crossing. However, the Sahara was not always a barrier. Let's stop there. The Sahara, sub-Sahara, right, in all terms related, was not always a barrier. Research and exploration has confirmed that the Sahara alternates between arid deserts and humid green savanna with lakes in a 2,000-year cycle, and that the humid periods have reoccurred continuously throughout the time of human evolution. So we have a simulated look of what the Green Sahara looked like. So how far does it go down?
Whoa.
How far does it go down? It goes further than uh, into what you call sub-Saharan Africa. That's how large the Green Sahara was. It was not a barrier. But this is a simulation.
Does it include Kenya and Uganda and all those places? I
No,
can't
those
I
are a
can't
little
enlarge.
further down. Those are a little further down. But the fact is that people would be migrating because of they have whatever pastoral reliance that they have, and as when they were hunters and gatherers, the climate and their food supplies would control where they went, right? But they but one of the important things was
Mm-hmm.
water supplies. So the water supply of the Nile uh, was one of the water suppliers, but they had lakes and they had wadis, right? So but particularly in this area over here, they had huge lakes uh, at this particular period that we're talking about, right? So the Nile itself wasn't a precedent, and some of these other river systems would be developed as the climate changed. So then uh, um, we go into what these people saw. So they definitely saw the giraffe, the ostrich, and all those people, all those things. Then we go into rock art, and we find that there is a corridor of rock art, meaning people's uh, how can I say, sharing the same cultural, cognitive, and innovative thinking and spreading to other peoples if they're not spreading themselves. So when we look at rock art through if we look at rock art as a means of understanding what was happening, right? We have rock art in this time period that from the Green Sahara and then later, where these people are continuously a similar cultural kind of symbolic iconography. So this is some of the rock paintings and rock art, and I will go into it more. So we have depictions of humans in this type of period, right? So they're not Mediterranean people, they're not Levant people, they're the Maghrebi people, they're African people. And we see what they saw because they drew it so we could look at animal species that they hunted, that they revered. So, and then how they showed themselves, right? They had other colors in which they could use. They could have made him more redder. They chose to use this color and identify as they were classifying humans and animals as a human animal interaction and representation, right? So they had choices as to how they were going to depict themselves, and these concepts of Osiris and death and all of those other things does not exist at this time period, right? So this is
They did not exist.
right.
Okay.
Why the Sahara turns green? The position of Earth with respect to the sun is obviously affected on our daily lives. Earth's rotation causing alterations of night and day in the 23-degree tilt in our axis of rotation means that for half a year, one hemisphere is more exposed to the sun and enjoys summer while the other is not. I think we all know that, right? So then paradoxically, the Sahara turns green due to the slight increased temperature when northern summer coincides with the perihelion, which when Earth is closest to the sun. This causes a modest increase in monsoon rains, which allow progressively more grasses to grow. At some point, this triggers a chain reaction because the vegetation reduces evaporation, allowing for more vegetation, and the whole area suddenly gets covered in grass and trees. Eventually, excess water collects in lakes and grasslands, move animals, um, animals move in, followed by people, right? So what we have from this diagram is we have 14,000 years, uh, up to about 14,000 years. And then we have this period from that period, 14, 15,000 years, into this range over here, which we call the Green Sahara, which is in this diagram depicted with this large span of land. And then we have present day. So we have repeated cycles over every 2,000 years. All right. So this
Mhm.
one will also talk about Arabia, but I don't the Green Arabia, which people don't deal with. But I'm not going to deal with that. I'm going to deal with I'm just going to deal with more with the Green Sahara.
And I'm sorry, in the package you sent me, is this article and map included in the package?
This one no, but I will send you.
Would you please? Because that visual is really good for me. Now I have a sense, I mean, of what the land is we're talking about, so what the people is, and so what would it mean for that all to have the same genome? So yeah, that's very helpful. If I have a visual, then I can see it and
Well,
I can see the movement
I
of
will
it.
certainly. I just want to. The reason for this is to tell me what you want, what you're interested in, what you know. Because
Yeah,
it's
no,
so
this
crazy.
is helpful. This because we're working with someone who was educated in 1492. The Columbus discovered the ocean. I mean discovered so this is rescuing,
Right, right.
reclaiming history and understanding.
So let me just try to um, uh,
Okay.
in my book. This is so let me just find where I put it. Okay, bookmarks and lists, and then here I think it's in here in my book. Oh, bookmark manager. Sheesh. And let's go to Kemet because I just put it in there recently so I could do this presentation, and then I have to kind of like um, put it in another section to make it more clearer. So I showed you. Okay, so let's go to uh, this resource. So then, from this particular resource, we see another map, and I can get you to Wikipedia, I can get you everywhere. But um, so this is the Sahara today, where you see all of this desert, right? And where the trade winds are
Hmm,
going.
hmm, hmm.
And then you see the 5,800 BC. So this is the period this part is a period in which we see actually more rivers, right, that were created. So you see kind of the Libya rivers, and you see the Nile, and then you also see uh, tributaries that connect, right, and makes Africa in sub-Saharan, well, which would become the sub-Saharan, which is here, we usually connecting rivers. So these rivers were allowing Africans to travel them for their cattle and for other reasons to kind of connect Africa. So people followed rivers. So in the ancient times, people followed rivers, but in the deep, deep time, uh, you can come up here and you can find rivers flowing from the Atlas Mountains, right, down, right, until the Green Sahara dried up, right? So because there
Right.
are the Atlas Mountains and water collects on mountains and they flow down, and then you see more of the Libya tributaries or rivers, right? And then you see the Nile, and then there's the
Right.
Wadi Hawar, which is called the Yellow Nile, and you can see this flows. And so humans are migrating. Let me just pull up another map.
Okay, let me ask you just one other question, please. Now, does this map also include parts of Mali
Uh,
in the Green
well,
Sahara?
Mali, yes, Mali is very, very important. A little later, because when I mean 6,000, 7,000, because we have the emergence of pottery in there, and pottery began in Mali. So we have,
Pottery began in
yes,
Mali.
pottery began in Mali, right?
Oh my God! I have pictures. I have done primary research. I have pictures of villages of pottery women who are all, how they work together. It's a whole structure and stuff, and it began there.
Yes.
Wow! And so, what I'm asking is that we right now have the emergence of the Sahel, the SA. How do
I
you,
know.
is this Green Sahara the same?
No, Sahel, the
Yes.
Sahel is more of a later construct of peopling along where the uh, where there's more modern states, right? Before it was just a corridor that kind of showed where the desertification and then the what was where people lived in, right? And so it becomes what you call the modern kind of Sahel. So, so the,
Okay, okay, because we'll get back to facts, but my literature storytelling self thinks, oh my God, here we have in the Sahel right now a movement with President
yes,
Toure to in fact move those borders, move those back again, and what if, and so now I'm understanding that in some way that area is it's like I was trying to figure out if the area he was coming from, that they're talking about this new kind of new renaissance, is the same area,
no,
is in
it's a
the
later
area of the
period.
parent
Yeah,
civilization.
no, it's a later period um, of
Right.
climate and peopling, right? That
Okay.
but uh, that we're not talking about at this moment. It becomes part of the drying phase of the Green Sahara, right? And then
Okay.
a
So
region,
Mali is part of the
a
drying phase.
region which we
Okay.
call the Sahel. So let's go to Wikipedia and see what Wikipedia has to say about the African human period, um, just to kind of help give you some visuals and some data and some resources.
Okay.
So Um, so here's the modern Sahara, and the Sahel is these regions over here where it's part desert and yeah, it touches more greenery, right? So that's more of a later period based on climate where we could look at modern populations along this kind of route, right? But
Okay. All
this
right.
is
All
the
right.
modern Sahara. And so in this particular source, if there's pictures, we
Okay.
uh, uh, okay, we see a period. This is 14,000 years ago. So we see the period where the Earth was shifting again, and during the late glacial maximum, where this was in fact desert, right? And that
Mm-hmm.
the habitable places were below. That was 14,000 years ago or so, right? Then we should see
Right.
here. Uh, I don't see where they show it in this source. Let me see what I searched for. I said the Green Sahara. Let's just see here where the period that we're talking about is like from 14,000 to about 8,000 years. Um, and I'm
Okay.
trying, so it doesn't show me over here. So what did I say? Okay, so I searched for the human African human period. I want just the Green Sahara and see what it says because I'm just looking for a source, and I can go back and get you better sources. Uh, ah, um, okay, okay, so they don't want to talk about it. They want to call it the African humanid period, which we did, and so Wikipedia is not being helpful. But I will.
Right, right. Yeah, no, yeah. No, I don't want you to go too far up on the tangent. Let me ask you another question. This cave art, the artifact, because I'm just trying to understand the geography. Now,
Mhm.
when Rosalind talks or when people talk about cave art, my head has just been that was primarily cave art was primarily found in South Africa
Mm.
in terms of the evolution and stuff like that. That is not a correct assumption, right? Because now I'm seeing in terms of the material culture here, this is an examination of the material culture, the cave art, and the
Mhm.
bioanthropology. All right, so the cave art is cave art found throughout Africa?
Yes, so I had showed you in the earlier slide reference, I showed you uh, that the cave art, if I pull that up, if I can pull that up real quick again, where it is, where we have the sites of cave art. Um, we have sites for cave art, we have sites of pottery, we have sites of weapons, we have all of this data that we can now kind of put in. So let's just see. I didn't get through this whole paper, but let's see where, if I have a diagram of cave art in here. It was may not have been in here, but okay, I'll do it a different way, so I don't have to do it this way. I know which source I can use. So let's just do okay. So let's just pull up African rock art, right? And that should help me much better. So let's pull this up, rock art. Uh, I can get it from Britannica. I can get it from I can get it from, and I have a great book that I sent. Well, I sent you ancient, which I'll go over.
Okay.
Okay, give me a second. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to. There's a rock art. Where's this? Christopher rock art, North Africa. Cape Paint, African rock art. Is this the one or Bradshaw? I'm gonna start here. African rock art. I think I'm gonna start here. There's a rock art. There is a let me see where this is. Britannia, like I said, and there's another source, and I don't know why I don't see it. Let's go to African rock art, British Museum. There's a it's the rock art. Sorry, uh, this is not the one that I want to choose. Okay, North African rock art. Uh, so no, so what you were saying was yes, the rock art technology began in South Africa. Why? Because we know of
Okay.
the palettes, right? So
Right.
so we know of that, and then there are other techniques of carbonizing to change colors, and we see all of that in Southern Africa. We see that all the way over here, right? These people over here,
Right.
right, because of climate, right? They encouraged movement, climate encouraged movement to other areas. So ultimately, from the Green Sahara phase, we have this whole corridor with rock art. So we have Mauritania, Algeria, Morocco, Libya, and Egypt, Sudan, right? So we're gonna go to Libya. So um, uh, what they do is in this particular section, they go look at the rock art in Libya, right? So rock art is in Libya. Let me see, featured rock art site. Uh, so in Libya, these are the sites in which you could see rock art and where it's dated and the rock etchings, right? In Libya, right? So now the iconography of this rock art, right, will become portable, and you will see them in vases, right? You will see them in vases and pottery. So that's I can so let's go over here. Oh no. So that's Libya, and there's much more. But let's go pick another place. So there's Algeria. So then when we look at rock art in Algeria, we see some of the major sites of and some of the major things. And so we see bovine uh, etchings. They don't have much here. It's strange, but these are some of the sites. So I have to. It's the rock art. It's going to come to me in a minute. Um, there's rock art in Morocco, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
right. There's rock art in Morocco. Morocco is so important to this period, but there's rock art in Morocco. So these people, though different, maybe sometimes in culture and different, and sometimes how they look. No, okay, so I have to get out of this site. I'm not happy with this site. Um,
Okay.
I have to find North African rock art.
But thank you for showing me that corridor. That corridor was important, because it was both chronological, but it could show the movement, because that's another thing. Because we're locked into these notions of nations, and I like how you talk about peopling versus nations, but the peopling of areas is that we get locked in, so that we think that they're but but people did when they didn't have yards and fences. People moved from one place and then have corridors. And I was
Yeah,
thinking that's probably why the people nowadays can do the salt caravans because their ancestors knew it when it wasn't desert, years ago. And so they're just following those routes that they used to follow when there were
and
rivers, and
sometimes
instead of
right,
rivers, they made.
and they're following the remnants of archaeology that was left, the rock art, right? And they're noting that. So here is um, okay. So the Trust for African Rock Art is what I was looking for, and so here you see the same thing: Morocco, Algeria, and Libya, right? And you see rock art in Egypt, Niger, Mali. So there's corridors of rock art. There's corridors of pottery. There's corridors of weapons, right? And so it's connecting these corridors. So and then all the way down here is the earliest rock art in Southern Africa, right? Namibia, right? As they
Oh,
migrated, as these
right.
same people migrated in the same styles, right? The same styles or similar styles you find. So if we go to Algeria, let's see if we can go to Algeria rock art.
So were those people who were doing the corridors, were they like cousins or like a family? I mean, or they're people they were large small groups of people who they were were those
Yeah,
okay,
so they're
are
yeah,
corridors
so
migrational
right. So they have
pathways?
different strategies. They have clan exogeny where clan A doesn't marry clan into clan A. It doesn't marry into clan B. They try to marry into clan C, and then there's admixture. Then there is kingship rules where princes can't stay in the same realm as the king, so they have to go out and chart new areas in which to live in the times of being chiefs, right? Kings and chiefs. so that to create less social upheaval within one kingdom, they would actually have to go out. And then there's food, the need for hunting and stuff like that. And some groups of people go out, and they never return, because they settle into other areas. Africans are all cousins in the sense of their shared DNA, right? If you want to look at it like that, did they know each other? Not always. Um, so there's a lot of lenses to kind of think about. Um, but here we are in where are we in Algeria. So someone in the chat says show Algeria, right? So how genetics helps us. Shesmu Patas says genetics helps us with this. SNPs, uh, um, they all help us with this because that kind of shows when we can find a sample that we can actually look at ancient DNA. It tells us a lot about the people and the places. Luckily, we have now the Nuiwat specimen that gives us an idea of that they came from North Africa, and then we have other samples that from Morocco and other places in North Africa that help, and then we have the Libyan mummy. If you've ever seen the Libyan mummy, I don't know, but we and so now what they're able to do is they figured out where they can get the best DNA from, uh, based on possibilities of where it may have lived. And so from that, we can now look at the more better the ancient populations of North Africa. So the Trust for African Rock Art uh, uh, gives you what is happening in Algeria, right? So we've seen uh,
Right.
uh, so now we have, wow, we have humans in more symbolic attire with scarifications and or dress, right? How they looked, right? How they looked with their animals in comparison. This isn't just in Algeria, right? And sometimes in the deep time, and then sometimes in the phases of when the Romans and the Greeks came, right? But these are in a deep time. So I could send you this, right?
Yes, and I really want. I also really want that map that had that showed the corridor.
Okay, I will write it down.
Because because this is an amazing collection of facts because it's about movement and migration. I keep taking notes and just by the way, I loved what you talked about in terms of the clan and the kingships and how the social
Yeah,
structure
Diop noticed
was
that
organized.
Diop's that's one of Diop's work on clan exogamy. So this is just in Algeria. So this now maps to what we were talking about with the Nuiwat person, right? And what and their
Right,
spines look like, and here their skeletal structures, and um, uh, and the diversity of human skin color that Ankh talks about. Um, Uncle Keck, he does his work is more like on human evolution and stuff like that, and so on his channel he will show many of the books that I am showing, that these things are written in. So that's in Algeria. So let's look at another corridor. Let's look at Libya. Come over here. So I'm trying to talk about the Maghrebi person who is connected to what North Africa. So this is in Libya. So there is some old and some new, some more ancient, right? But generally, uh, these are the populations in this area that uh, worked with rock art. There's rock arts, and then there's vessels. There's stone vessels. There's uh, sacred sites where they did astronomy. Um, and this is what we know of what the people saw in the Green Sahara, what they carved into the rock. So we see the bovine. So uh, So that's there in Morocco. So what I'm just trying to say is there's corridors of innovation, right? Uh, let's go to our most talked about Egypt, huh, right? Rock art in Egypt is spread to Egypt.
Corridors of innovation. I like that.
Yeah,
Corridors of information. Wait a minute. Corridors of information? No, innovation. Innovation.
yeah, Egypt, right?
Looking at migration and then looking at corridors of innovation. And so, if we look at pottery, we can trace it down a corridor of innovation from South
Yes,
Africa to we get to
yeah.
in innovation. Okay. All right.
And then
And
we can apply pottery with that, and we can apply weapons and tools with that. And so in my write up to you, I talked about different lenses in which you can look at. So this is in Egypt, right? This is in early Egypt in the Green Sahara phase, right? Maybe the late Green Sahara phase, right? So it's continuous depiction of this is the cave of swimmers. I think this is the cave of swimmers, but you can see how they depicted themselves. So colonialism will wipe away the primary evidence if you are not in academia. It will wipe away this. It will make this. It will make this. It will marginalize this, right? So you have Shesmu says the human genome map in Africa. So that is, if you could put a link there, I'll put it up. But so there's the genome maps, there is the pottery maps, there's the cave art maps, there's the weapons maps, right? And so when we're talking about geography, it's combining different lenses that they create maps on because they use maps to mark this innovation. So we can go on and on about looking at and art historians and things like those people who are expertise can compare. So now we're getting further down. So this innovation that happened here, right, will connect up with earlier innovations from people moving up until they were here. So this corridor over here is Chad. So Chad uh, is in the uh, southernmost of the Green Sahara, and so we find rock etchings there. So these are migrating people with similar ideas. So this one is really
mm,
interesting to me because of the different palettes that is used, and then also connecting like a dappled cattle with white spots with other other humans, right? Talking about possibly lighter and darker, but using hue. How they symbolically what they really meant, we won't know. We don't have their writings, but we can use some ideas about why they changed their palette. Not that they were Europeans, but because of trying to show distinctions in humans. Possibly, possibly. And nothing that I'm saying is really hard fast, but what I am trying to say is that uh, the uh, the innovations in rock art tell us a lot about the populations within these areas, and then we can classify them uh, and separate peoples because of particular innovations. So that's that.
mhm.
So now so let's get rid of this, and I'll, for the people who hate eat. Well, okay, so let's just start here. So let me see, Mental Hotep in chat. Is it Mental Hotep in chat? So let's just see this. So etchings. So here in Chad, continue to the site. I want to take a risk for you. Normally I wouldn't. maybe I wouldn't do that. And we can look at other things like boating and stuff like that. Boating technology to read books, read boats. We can look at that. This is not the one. Maybe I shouldn't have clicked it to see if I could find it better. So you do know that Mental Hotep, you did know that Mental Hotep, uh, that he in fact sent the excavation into the Western Desert and got as far as Chad, and we can see the Meta Necha in Chad. We,
Ah, okay. All
okay,
right, I
so
did not know that, but now Chad and that area, it has, I have a whole new
yeah, beginning
desire to go much deeper into that area,
yeah,
particularly particularly in both in terms of what we're talking about now in terms of the innovative innovations, but in terms of what's happening now, and if in fact they can in fact unite Chad and Mali, and I think it was either
well, Chad is
Nigeria.
much further than Mali. Chad is more central. So, how far that we know that ancient Egyptians got? Well, we know they from evidence that they got as far as Chad, right? Now,
Okay.
the peopling may have ended there, but the how can I say the communication did not necessarily end there, right? So we have a problem. We West Africans. We're not North Africans. We're not Egyptians.
Right.
That okay. So that's fine. But sometimes you don't need peopling. You just need the culture. People are learning from each other. So here on this hillside, something remarkable. You see uh, Egypt, Tawi civilization, interfacing as far as Chad. So they did go as far as Chad, and so that is pretty much well known, right? And uh, and then we have the story, of course, of uh, going into Yam, Harkuf, going into Yam, and we have this story, and so we're looking for where Yam might have been, right? Where Yam may have been, right? And so we have um, from here the upper inscription on the right reads Em Her Mis Netcher, right? So uh, so Em is Yam. So from the same piece, we see that they are designating this area in Chad as possible Yam, right? So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if you like, I'll bookmark this. I'll send this. I'll send this to you, so that so when these conversations come up about how far did the people of ancient Egypt go, you at least have something that the inscription of Mentuhotep, right? Uh, so
Right.
this period in Middle Kingdom, right? Um, well, yeah, intermediate period, right? First intermediate period, you have that they at least traveled to Yam, and Yam is in Chad, right? And so you have primary inscriptions, right? And
Right. Right. Right.
them bringing goods or talking about goods. So with that, I'm just going to show you my last thing, and if you have some questions, I will I will try to answer. But I'm grateful in you talking to me um, because you have a different lens. You've studied Egypt and some other places in different ways, right? And connecting them is two different things, right? Connecting
Right.
is two different things, and I'm giving you a lens to connect with material evidence, pottery,
Right,
pastoral.
right, right. To yeah, a way to restore the truth through material evidence. That's what I'm getting. I mean, I mean, I'm going to reflect on the pages of notes that I took during this conversation, and so
Well, I
that when we
I'm
are ready.
recording it. I'm recording it so you can create.
Right. But I had to record what things that struck me in my head, and and so in our next conversation, I can be even have deeper knowledge. But mainly, I'm walking away with some truths,
Overview.
that are backed up by material evidence, and one of them is that the and it's the truth about the peopling of
Well,
geography.
I'm not saying what I'm showing is the truth. I'm what I am trying to say is I'm sharing material evidence, right? And truth is always left up to uh, let me see what's happening here. Truth is always left up to someone looking for truth. I'm what I'm looking for is material evidence to
Right.
the interface in academia with people like you, and you can hopefully do a good job of at least putting up the lenses. Where am I?
Yeah,
Mr.
and what I'm looking for is ammunition, to win the battle against false narratives. And so
Oh, yeah.
I think that's really good that you're doing what you're doing, and I think it's really good that I'm doing what I'm doing, and my work will be so much deeper and have so much integrity. But your battlefield is on material and stuff like that. My battlefield ultimately is on truth and falsehood, because that's what my book is about. That's what
Mhm.
my work has been about, is looking at falsehood and then using evidence. But I've been using philosophic or something or other. So I love it, the fact that I can now add material evidence to my
Oh,
tools
yeah.
chest, and that's so much stronger. So if I'm going to make a point now, to the community and to the world, because I'm an applied scholar. That's the difference between me and Mario and Wade and those people who are theoretical scholars. I'm not that at all. My discipline is find it, use it. Find it, apply it. Find it, make the world better. Find it, do what Queen Hatshepsut says. Restore that which is in ruin and make it more beautiful than before. So what you do in these conversations, you give me ammunition, and I know your fight is within academia, but I don't. That I choose. That's not. I'm not interested in
Well, I'm
academia.
not in
You know.
academia. I'm not in academia, but when I do interface with things in academia and professors in academia who just completely got it wrong, um, some of them, like with Dr. Hawass, he's in real archaeology. I'm gonna try to remind them, and then there are people in California, the where I don't think I think that they're gatekeepers, and they will say some things that are halfway truths, but what they're still doing is guarding against old thinking. Like if I ask them, so where do you get the black land from? Yes, I'm talking to you. Where do you get the black land from? Oh, the fertile soil. Yeah, that's not good enough. Who said it was the fertile soil? Right? I want to answer.
Right.
Who said? Okay, if you don't want to tell me, I'll tell you. It's Plutarch. And Plutarch was giving his opinion. Do you have anything else besides Plutarch, who actually wrote it down instead of your feelings about the black soil? No, no, you don't. Okay, so fine. So where did Plutarch get it from? Okay, so let's look at the closest time period in which they talk about these things. Oh, we find Edfu text before Plutarch, which he might have encountered uh, when asking about what people believe. So I'll show you what is in Edfu. Edfu didn't say that it was the black land. It didn't say it at all. This is from the ancient Egyptian perspective. They said that Kemet was the eye of Osir. It was a realm. Okay, so but you want to praise Plutarch, but you don't want to deal with Edfu, right? So what's your problem? You're an expert. I'm not the expert. But what you're doing is that you are what you are doing is you're minimizing something for something else and creating a false narrative. And I'll beat you every time because I've as if some of the people in the chat want to call me a hobbyist. Well, I have the primaries, and Smash Rockwell has the primaries, and Christopher Wizards has the primary, and and uh, and Sean Carr has the primaries, right? And I will always argue with people who have an opinion but can't show me any factual evidence of where you get your nonsense from, except for uh, uh, parroting what other people call are experts. But if I get a chance to talk to experts, and I do sometimes, I will remind them. So, nevertheless, the Cave of the Beast, which I am going to make sure that you get access to it. The Cave of the Beast is looking at the rock paintings, and then uh, what the author did was he looked further and he started trying to connect uh, the culture of Egypt to the rock paintings um, in, in the Cave of the Beast, right? Which is Southwest Egypt in Gif Kaber. So what he's saying is Southwest Egypt in the Western Desert, there's rock paintings. And what he's trying to say, or he's implying with his material evidence, is that he could find some evidence of where ancient Egypt got some of his concepts from. So we know that Amduit is in the Western Desert, and Jedamak is going to do a presentation in Asar on that, right? So then we have this region, right? We have this region of Egypt, and then it begins to talk about the Western Desert. So that's geography. And so this book is probably a very important book for you to have. So what else do I want to show? Um, okay, so now what they do is they also map uh, uh, these different periods that we were talking about, the aridization, the Green Sahara, and they are connecting it with the rock painting sites. Okay. Um, um, the author is smart enough to be able to use a method that Petrie discovered about looking at uh, how can I say, on rock cliffs, uh, different periods, looking at different periods on rock cliffs, right? Um, uh, looking at cattle, right? Looking at animals and cattle during the different periods, right? So okay, so looking at different types of ways in which they illustrated cattle during the pastoral periods, and looking at what was drawn of how the people drew themselves. Um, and I want to get to a particular area that I think that will be helpful to you um, in what you some of the work that you are might hopefully be migrating from, but migrating to in a sense of the origins of things, because the world doesn't begin or end in ancient Egypt. It just does not. It just does not.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So this iconography of people putting their hands, meaning identifying as a human at a time, me maybe authoring it, or maybe as a community of artisans putting their hands here, drawing their hands, different size hands, right? I mean, that's the way they're authoring it before writing. Okay.
Mm-hmm,
It's
mm-hmm.
So now what they do is they look at some of the icons of Egypt, right? Like the Purdum Heru, right? And the Devourer, right? The Beast. and they noticed that in this time period of rock art, they have a beast, right? And this
Mhm.
seems to be very, very important to their thinking. And then he looks at it, he says, "Oh shoot, they got a beast in Egypt that may have something to do with chaos and uh, chaos, with chaos and righteousness." Then they notice, "Oh shoot, Norma smiting. We know about that, but we also know about it in smiting in the rock paintings." So here's a large figure seemingly to smite, uh,
Ah,
right? And then
right.
I don't want you to be. I'm trying to take you out of Egypt, being Egypt centric, right? Uh,
Right, 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 right.
and then they have this beautiful picture of this figure, celestial figure, and humans interfacing it. And they say, wait, in Egypt we have something similar, right? We have Nut, right? We where we are
Mhm.
holding up Nut. Well, we have uh, we have this same type of figure possibly in the Western Desert, right? The peopling, right? The diversity of skin colors and peopling, and so then we have. Let me just see. Yeah. So what this author does is he doesn't dwell on that. He's more concerned about, well, what are let's describe the period as best as we can, right? And so he shows where the findings are. He shows uh, the somewhat of the same what we see there. Similarly, the ancients saw it, right, where now this is desert, but this might have been a sacred corridor where these rock paintings are. Um, so the author Ankh shows this book a lot as uh, the Cave of the Beast, right? But there's also the Cave of Swimmers, right? So now you date the rock art. So now he's talking about cartoon style pottery. So remember, I said there's different ways in which to look at. So we have the rock art, we also have pottery, we have tools, we have rivers and lakes, we have the dotted wavy line pottery, and so so it goes on and on. So I will make sure that you get a resource so that you can get access to this, uh, so that you have a lot you have a lot to think about in assessing citizenship in Africa. Look how enormous this is. Look. This is almost a whole vignette of the Pert Imheb rule, if I want to say comparatively, but not just comparatively and symbolically of vignettes. Okay, and so then lastly, what I'll do is lastly I will show you some Nakata uh, period stuff. So it's too much for me to go over. This is a whole, how can I say, for a college, a university, just dealing with this book is a whole semester's work of oh, here it goes right here. Uh, a whole semester's work of trying to review this information to begin to try to make some type of uh, analysis, not even new analysis, but analysis of what the work is. So I think so.
Mhm.
I'm gonna get out of here, and I wanna. Oh, and for my viewers who are watching, uh, uh, I know that some of you have learned some, and matter of fact, I'll just do this one thing, and Dr. Hardiman, I'll open up the lines for some of the young people that are still here. Uh, for some, I see Shesmu's there, and some of the young people that are there to, to kind of like interface. Um, uh, and sometimes they say nasty things, uh, and I have to call them on it. I mean, yeah, yeah, okay. So let me just see. Oh, Nakata art, Nakata pottery, and maybe they don't mean to, but in our community, we have a lot of mean spirited type of people, um, who try to first make everybody the same. So my work spans to the 80s, right? And sometimes these people forget where they got the information from or how they got it. So it amazes me. It amazes me. Well, I didn't get it from you, brother Reggie. I got it from. But how did you get led there? I that just bugs me out. How did you? Who kept up the fight? How did you get there? Who makes it important? Right? Why did it become important? Right? Who's always been there with the stuff? So then, when you get to something like this was in the Met Museum. Can I blow it up? I don't know if I see David. This was in the Met Museum. They have taken out all of the Nakata work from the Met Museum. Security check. Oh, I was going to put up my Cash App. That's what I was talking about. So I'll find that. So if anybody wants to buy me dinner tonight, uh, I would appreciate it. And then later, I will give you links to some of the other pages that we're on. Smash Rockwell's page, uh, uh, Smash Rockwell's page. Who else? Garfield Reed's page, uh, and by Reggie Lunch. One second, by brother Reggie Lunch. And if you have, uh, you can have critiques of me because maybe I don't articulate like your favorite pastor or your favorite pseudo, and I don't. I may my diction is a little bit different than what you might desire, uh, but that has nothing to do with my writing and the way I organize history, right? And if you're better, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. You're better. I bet you. Okay, so where is this at? So this is not coming up. So I'm gonna have to find a better. That's in ResearchGate. So I'm gonna have to find a better. I don't want to take up too much more time. But I like this vase, so I can talk about it a little bit better. So let's see if I can find it. Let's see, search for Google Lens so find a better image of this one. Um, uh, Yike, where is it? Yeah, my screen is freezing up. Sorry. Okay, so here, um, where's this one? That was in ResearchGate. ResearchGate is giving me a harder time, so let's just visit this one. Anybody in the chat still through? And while I'm doing this, because I'm closing out, I'm going to share the link, and maybe you can talk to Dr. Joye Hardiman, because I think I've said enough. And just please be polite. See, here you go. Share some things that I might have missed. Um, so I'm going to put in a link in a second. Okay. Can you hear me? Ah, shit. Hello? Hello, hello. Uh, Hello, can you hear me? You're sharing.
Could you hear me?
Hello, give me a second. Hi, my computer just had frozen. I was showing too much stuff. Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, wonderful.
Okay,
Okay,
excellent.
um, so I wanted to show you the Nakata vases with some iconography, but I'm having problems. If I can, I will. I do want to give some younger people a chance to uh, maybe give some more information that I might have missed, because we have some really bright people that are here. And um, thanks, Brother La. Thanks for letting me know. So I put up the link if you want to talk to Dr. Joye Hardiman. And the funny thing is, she has a doctorate. She has over 40 years in the university, right? She is willing to ask some questions and look at some data from people who are independent scholars who are not in academia. And the some of you are, you've grown some hair on your chest, or you know you do some push-ups and you are experts in your mind. But the issue is, and then you judge people, because you certainly judge me. But the issue is, um, being able to interface with academia, university professors, is a very difficult chore, right? YouTube videos don't cut it. She can go and look at a whole bunch of YouTube videos, but it may not be what she wants. So what she wants to need. So what I'm asking you, some of you who are really great, to um, add to the add to the conversation. So I see Brother La is funny because he knows, right? Uh, uh, but so I have Dr. Hardiman. I have, if he's still on, Jose Francis. I think he logged on, and then there's some other.
Yes, Brother
Jose,
Reggie.
are you there?
Yeah, Brother
Yeah. How
Reggie.
you
How are
doing?
you? I see what you
Oh,
did there,
I'm
Brother
fine.
Reggie. I see what you did there,
I
Brother
mean,
Reggie.
well,
I like what you
anyway, you're
did.
talking
I
to
like what
Dr.
you did.
The
It was a
Jose
wonderful.
Francis is not. Jose Francis, Dr. Hardiman is not in the United States, so there's going to be a lag.
Okay, great. Where is he speaking
Okay,
from?
great. Where's he speaking from?
Trinidad and Tobago.
Ah,
Ah,
welcome.
oh,
All right. I just wanted to say it was a great presentation. I don't really have too many questions. I just normally come in when I see Brother Reggie on, just to give him a little support. So I don't have any particular questions to ask you. It's just
Well,
fun.
well, may
So
I ask you a question?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, what do you think my students need to know about the lies about the Green Sahara, or about Kemet, or about the language? What that you have been working on, that you have material
you
data
have
to
material
support?
data to support.
You know what I think, Doctor? I am one who had a specific romantic idea about chemistry. Then I started to read more primary documents, and I realized that it wasn't what I thought. So I had to accept some things that I wasn't prepared to accept. So that's been my experience. I thought it was all good and wonderful, and then I started to see the conflict and other things. And I had to accept that it wasn't all rosy, my view. So
Ah,
I have to come to grips with the war and those sorts of things, and what it meant
right.
and why it was important. Different things of that sort because I wasn't prepared to accept that. And so some of my brothers in the community, like Smash Rockwell, showed me that these things occurred and you have to talk about it to be clear. It doesn't have to be a negative light, but it has to be spoken about. And I had to deal with that in my personal journey, and it bothers me still. So that's one of the things that I learned.
Right.
You have to be
Ah,
good with what you do is good because if you don't, then you're not being intellectually honest. And that bothered me to really do that, have to talk about that and accept that to people and then try to explain to them. It's not the same as when you're talking about a conqueror or someone who is actually trying to oppress other people. And interestingly enough, I'm going to put together a presentation on the idea of oppression in ancient Kemet to explain that it's not that word and concept does not exist in the same way that we see it in the quote unquote Western world. It's not the same concept.
Oh
So
no,
that
but
that,
we did, but the ancient Egyptians did not like their enemies, and they
yeah,
certainly at some points did not like the people in the Western Desert, Libya and Nubia, right? So they
yeah,
did not, and so my whole thing is, I think you have your YouTube open or something. So my
no,
whole
no,
thing
no.
is, I'm not trying to romanticize. I'm not gonna romanticize ancient Egypt because I study it, but I study other African cultures. So I'm not gonna I'm the days of romanticizing and overdoing this Ma'at stuff is a little bit is a little bit problematic. Oh, I have Brother Sankofa on also.
Hey, Dr. Hardiman, how are you doing?
oh, I'm fine, thank you. Fine,
Um,
thank you. Thanks for
can you see
asking.
me? Can you see me? I can't tell by the screen.
I
Um,
okay. So I'm
no.
gonna minimize. I'm going. Sorry. I'm going to.
All right.
Sorry. I'm
Hey,
going to
Doc.
get rid of my screen. So I'm sorry about that.
Right.
But he wants to be seen. So let's.
No, no,
Let's.
no. Dr.
Hey,
Hardiman,
hello. How
you
are
remember me, Dr. Hardiman?
you? So nice to see you.
How's it going? It's good
I
to
am
see you.
blessed.
It's
Nice
good to
to
see
see you
you.
as well, sir. Nice to see you as well.
Um, So I hear you said students, but are you? And then maybe you could tell the people about the work that you've done to graduate students from Evergreen State College. But I'm curious. I thought you had retired from there.
Oh, no. I am never going to retire from teaching. What I have done is I emancipated, proclamated myself from meetings. I don't go
Ah,
to any meetings,
yeah,
but
okay.
I won't. I just will not sit in one meeting anymore. But I do teach one class a year at the college, and I teach it both in person and virtual because I'm a lifelong learner. So
Yes, yes,
and so this is how I learn. This is how, at 81, I still can I can still feel like I can participate,
right.
and yeah, so I'm still teaching. So and so what Brother Reggie and I were talking about is the students asked me when I at Evergreen State College, one of the things we do, we work within a Black pedagogy and a Black worldview. So it is not designed according to what the faculty want. It's designed according to what the students and the community need. So we asked them. And so I asked my students, "What do you want me to teach this year?" And they said, "We'd like to know more about ancient Egypt." So I said, "Okay, cool." So then I reached out to Sister Ricketti and to Brother Reggie because I my knowledge I want to do the best job I can teaching, and so I went to the best people I knew to ask for assistance. So that's how this conversation kind of started with my understanding that my students needed Black students needed to understand geography because we don't
Yeah,
understand geography. We don't, because we're in our hoods or in our neighborhoods, or we don't connect with the world, or we, become, hood centric or whatever. So when I talked with Brother Reggie and he was talking about geography, he gave me a new insight. It wasn't geography as geography. I mean, I always knew it was bias, but it being based in a colonialization process that was colonial history, and got me really excited about looking at the politics of it, and then trying to figure out, well, what have they told us that was wrong about about mapping and geography, like that there's a Far East and a Near East, or that Europe
mhm,
is a continent, and it's not. It's not a continent. A continent has to be surrounded totally by water, and it's not. So all those ways that geography has been used to reduce and deceive us felt important to study, to talk about. So then when Brother Reggie, I started looking at his work about the Green Sahara, it was like, whoa. I didn't, I mean, I never, I mean, I have been to Mali. I have, I have seen it. I have been in the desert that once was green,
mm,
but I didn't know it, and so I'm really excited about working with him and anybody and everyone to develop this class for older Black adults, working adults, average age 37. So I'm working who are in leadership positions. And if I can get them to shift some of their narratives about who they are as Black people and who our history is and what we can do, then they've got a ripple. There's a geometric effect because they will talk with their clients or they'll talk with their kids. Because we have at Evergreen we have an interdisciplinary program, but we also have a dual language program. So we're working with paraprofessionals in both Spanish and in English. So we've got people Mexicans, but we got a whole bunch of Jamaicans and Caribbean people. So they're people who, if they can understand the truth, And I say truth because I work with truth and falsehood that's because I work in metaphor. I know it frustrates Brother Reggie sometimes, but that's okay. It takes everybody to do it. You know, we got to have the myth makers and the Mayatians along with the material and the archaeologists. You know, because it's completion. So
Yes,
yeah. So that's that. I don't know if that answered your question, but
it does.
um,
It does.
yeah. And if you're ever in the Tacoma area, please stop by my school. I had the divine blessing of being able to be the architect for our school and our building, and I designed it in the lines of the Temple Library Universities of ancient and of I used to say of ancient Egypt. Now I got to watch what I say. But anyway, we use Swallow de Lubbock's book about the Temple of Man to design the college, and so you come in and we have our holies of the holies, and we have our huge Lyceum Hall and all those things like that. And
Dr. Hardiman, you have
yeah,
to change that because it was never the temple of man. If anything, it's the temple of the woman. Because the
yeah.
fact of the matter is, the holies of holies is, well, before you get to that, you go into the womb, right, which is the temple, and then there's an adjourning chamber, which is the like the brain, but it's the womb. So it's really the temple of and you can see it best at Hatshepsut's temple,
Wow.
right?
See,
Because when you walk in through her, you walk in, you see her feet in the bottom. You walk up the stairs, and you actually walk into her vagina, and then you walk into the womb, and then there are other chambers. So anyway, I just wanted to add that
oh
about if
no! Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. That's perfect, Brother Reggie. This is why I have these conversations. Yes, I need to shift that because it is true. When you walk into the campus, you're kind of walking into the navel, into the umbilical cord. You're going backwards, and then we have a huge, large space where we have where our students congregate, and we have dialogues, and we have speakers, and then but Queen Hatshepsut's motto is one of the mottos of the school. The goal, the motto of the school is enter to learn, to part to serve. Our school emblem is the Sankofa, but we take as our mission based on Queen Hatshepsut, who says, "I take as my sacred mission to restore that which is in ruin and make it more beautiful than before." And that's what we make our commitment to the students, that if they are in ruin, we will make them more beautiful than before. So it doesn't make any difference if it's our formerly incarcerated students, which we have a large cohort to. We do a lot of work with the Black Prisoners Caucus, both inside and outside the prison. Um, and whether we're talking about restoring, restorative justice in terms of restoring that which is in the room, or we're talking about family, people who work with families who are broken, or we're talking about community. So that's perfect. Thank you. I will never say Temple of Man again. I will say
no,
Temple of Woman, and I will connect it with Queen Hatshepsut. Thank you very much for that.
I'm looking for Shesmu Patah. He's really kind of informative, and I also want to say is you know someone named Gilbert, right?
Gilbert, yeah,
Sister Gilbert, right? Uh,
yeah.
so my friend, I have a good friend who lives in your area, Dorel, and he's a friend. He's met you many times with 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 Gilbert,
Dorel
and he,
White.
Dorel Good.
Good. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know him.
yeah, okay, yeah, he says, yeah, tell Dr. Hardiman I said hi, and I talk to him every 3 days or so, something
Oh,
like that.
oh, please tell him I received his hello, his greetings, and I send back my greetings. I'm surrounded with love.
Okay, so I think Shesmu came on, and you can finish talking, uh, Brother Sankofa. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, thank you very much. So there's a took. All right, Dr. Hardiman also. So then, that's amazing. that you are still so active in just molding, the African minds. That's great. I didn't know that. I'm so happy to hear that. And then, are you still do you still do work with ASCAC there and everything? Is that still an ongoing thing?
Yes,
I've been gone for a while, so I haven't been out there. I've been out here in DC doing work, so I
uh,
haven't. That's where I left to.
right. Understand. No, very good question. Yes, I am involved with the Western region. Right now, it is being led by Makeda Kamasi, who is Queen Nzinga's niece, and her heir apparent when Queen Nzinga was working and was running the organization and mobilizing and organizing the people and getting things out into the community. Um, she shadowed her. She watched how the queen operated, and now she is the president of the Western region. So we're doing everything we can to support her
Mhm.
for wanting to step up into leadership. And we're having our first in-person conference in February. I mean, I'm sorry, in December. Everybody else is still virtual, but we're gonna go viral, and the theme is actually celebrating the Temple of Women. I mean, the
Mm.
role of the role of women in Kemetic history, Aztec functionality, and honoring her aunt. We're going to be honoring Queen Nzinga, and I think that that's a really important thing to do. And then look at all the other women, starting with, well, not starting with, but certainly focusing on his Shepsoup and her contributions, and then all of the other female principles from throughout African civilization. So
And of
I'm
course, don't
still
forget
involved
that
in that
retreat.
part of it.
Do you have a date for the conference? Is
Oh
there a
yeah,
date yet?
yeah, for the Western Regional Conference, yeah, it's the first week in December.
Okay, cool.
The first weekend in December, and it's going to be in Pomona Beach. And it's gonna be one day we're gonna be in the kind of put moment community in the art center, and then there's going to be the live conference on Saturday, and then there is a celebration on Sunday. And I like working with the Western region because it's real intergenerational, and I think
Hmm.
that that's crucial right now. And so the national is also moving along. It does its conferences mainly. It basically makes its public appearances through a conference that happens once a year in March, which I think we'll be doing it again. I think it's still going to be virtual. But yeah, I still ASCAC is just like teaching is important to me. ASCAC allows me to further my research and and make sure that that I operate as clearly as I can within the um, assignment of the ancestors.
Awesome. It's amazing to see you again. It was a blessing. Dr. Hardiman, I want to say thank you for being an inspiration. Thank you for all of your hard work and your dedication to the liberation and elevation of the African mind and African people in the diaspora. You're much appreciated. The ancestors and our descendants are watching and appreciate the work that you've done in order to elevate our community. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. I received that. Thank you. I truly received that.
Brother Reggie, thank you for having me on.
Oh, sure, good brother. Good. My pleasure. My pleasure. Shesmo, you're on.
Peace, peace, greetings.
So, what did I miss, Shesmo? You one of my critics in the dojo. Why? So help me out and help us unpack this work to Dr. Joy Hardiman.
Reggie, as usual, you are an excellent job. Your connection to the elders. I know you're 1 or 2 years older than I am, but I would just say, as the other brother just mentioned, Sankofa, It is a pleasure and an honor to be in your presence, Dr. Eldris. You're my elder, my eldris. You, the Sisters of Isis and Nephthys, the Eastern Stars, along with Dr. and Mrs. Jeffries. It is always a pleasure to hear you all's voices, to know that you guys are still strong, holding it down. We love you. Continue to keep doing what you're doing, and we appreciate you so much. And it just brings joy and tears, of excellence when we hear that the elders are still standing on the front lines, and we appreciate you and thank you.
And Dr. Hardiman, we have communities. And so if you hear them call you pseudo, you just be welcome to the same club as Dr. Clark and Dr. Ben.
Right, but they don't do they don't do that. I'm too old. Right? Some people, you're right. We're gonna go. Remember your home training, right? It's like,
Right.
yeah, but thank you for that. Thank you.
So,
It is received.
information. So thank you for all of that, but I'm just your brother that you beat up sometimes. So let's get into the information. What can you impart? And for the community, I only got one cash app, and I want to say thank you to that person, and that's to let me see who. Yeah. Stimuli God and Stimuli. If you out there, log in. And listen, I want to have dinner tonight. I got one cash app, and that's not fair. That's just not fair. It's not fair. So who's gonna step up? You wiping your screen, Dr. Hardiman? Yeah.
No,
Okay.
no,
So
I'm trying to wipe my screen so I can get to my Cash App.
you don't well before you do that, sister. Before you do that, look, there's people out here. You hate me, you love me, but I always work. So I'm waiting. Who's next? Stimuli God. Thank you so much. Who's next? Who's gonna support Brother Reggie? I'm not begging you, but I do good work, and I appreciate you. Who's next? Okay. In the meantime, uh, Shesmu, what else can you help with?
Well, as you said earlier, I'm considered a pseudo. So, uh,
Welcome to the club.
again, as I said, everything that you presented to the cave art, given the good doctor ammunition to take back to the young students, I think is just a blessing, and just to continue to look into Africa and our ancestors.
I'm talking about the information, Shesmu. What were you talking about? The Human Genome Project? What were you talking about? There's some things that you put in there.
Well, to me, everyone that's an anatomically modern man comes from the stride of E1B, right? Whether it's E1B1A or E1B1B. It seems that when we trace E1B1B, it tends to go across the Sahel. I say Sahel, some say the Western Desert, um, when it was green, or the Green Sahara, that direction from east to west. And then it goes north and it goes south. And then it branches off and it begins to continue to branch all the way down to L. I'd say brother James is more qualified to speak because he studies, and I say Ngozi as well. And I can't think of the other brother, Gullah. They study real deep into the tribes, or the names of the peoples that people those northern areas, in the Chadian areas, in Burkina Faso. That whole Green Sahara area. Um, I think genetics has its place. It doesn't tell everything. I think when Sheikh Anta Diop and Theophilo Dr. Obanga brought interdisciplinary studies, interdisciplinary studies to the field of Egyptology when it comes to archaeology and language and pottery and they didn't really have genetics, but skin, melanin, testing of the skin dosages and things of that nature. The hieroglyphs, the migrations. I think all that helps to tell the whole story. And if we can, get the facts right, I think the truth will show for itself. And I know you said truth is. I can always never get that correct. Is it um, objective or
Subjective.
yeah, subjective? So I think it will be, a better factual or theoretical line of study if we can just follow it as best we can as close as we can to the factual possibilities. So that's kind of all I would add. I think the rock art is definitely needs to be looked at more closely. um, the patterns, the migration patterns, and then you can add the genome to it, and it would I think it would help a lot. The back migrations help, but we don't have to be set on who was who and who like trying to determine that it was this people, it was that people. It could be there at different times. It could be a mixture at different times. It could be more homogeneous or less homogeneous and a different. I mean, it's hard because when a species is not considered is not considered a human, and yet the human has archaic DNA, and then we say we come from bonobo, we branched off, we have a common ancestor. That's why I think European scholars and other non-African scholars say you're going to have a very difficult time trying to figure it out, but we'll try. It's not going to deter us from trying to look at our African story, and that's all I would say.
Okay, well, um, it's we've been on for 2.5, close to 3 hours, and the people don't support, uh, but they criticize, but they do not support. So if there's some more last questions, because I don't want to keep her long, because she still has a great day and time to do some things on this Sunday. I just wanted to, how can I say, have a community conversation where I try to unpack to some of this information and how Africa is connected through various means to community. I know I have a lot of, uh, you know, people who, they feel that they could say it better. Or they disagree. But one thing is, I can interface with academia like Sankofa, right, Brother Sankofa, this on, and others that we can have a conversation where we impart our ideas to scholars for their skepticism, for their challenges on methodology, right? For their need to see resources to back up. Because a lot of people they're fantastic. They got the jib, but when it comes to resources and references, uh, they can't do it. But in their minds, they the best. I have to laugh. They the best. So let me see if there's anybody else that's on. Uh, thank you, Shesmu. Brother Sankofa, you have any final words? And people, stop playing with me. Hit the Cash App. I mean, I do the work. I mean, y'all good for schools that don't emerge. You're good for uh, supporting channels where there are Europeans on and or the experts. You're there, but for brother Reggie, you always let me down. I'm trying to get some lunch to. I mean, I'm trying to get dinner tonight. I want a full dinner for my work, and you people always let me down. So, oh, Dr. Hardiman dropped off for a
No,
second.
no, no, no. I'm here, but I did, but I was I was trying to get to my cash app. You were making, I know
Yeah,
I
just
don't
take a
have
second,
to.
brother.
I know I don't have to. I
No,
know I
you
don't
don't.
have to. But I would.
You
But all right, I'll do it after the. I'll do it after.
Yeah,
Right.
but the fact of the matter is we have a large community. I have more than 4,000 subscribers. Uh, I just think that y'all just come to my channel to see what I'm talking about and play and then criticize. That's what I'm. That's what actually what I'm thinking. Because I do. How can I say? I do lead the community in putting out a lot of the great topics and bringing it to other places, right? And talking about your names. I have no problem talking about and inviting you on. I have no problem exposing you to scholars, some of you, not all of you, but I have no problems. But certainly Smash Rockwell show, certainly Garfield show, some certainly Ankh show, certainly Camdiverse show, right? I have no problem exposing scholars to your channels, um, and how can I say, and directing them to tell them, what on the channel is actually in your area. I have no problem. Y'all don't do it for me, but I don't have no problem. But anyway, uh, so Sankofa, you were saying something before I.
Yeah. Once again, Dr. Hartman, it's great to see you. But I wanted to say, do you have any advice, any guidance for the brothers and sisters that listen to Dr. Reggie's channel, and then any advice for those of us that listen, and how should we navigate these walls and halls of academia, this information, how to apply it to our day-to-day life? Any type of guidance on that level in your
Let me,
head?
if I'm understanding your question correctly, you're asking if I have any guidance to my to my next gen brothers and sisters who are negotiating inside of the belly of the beast, or
Basically, in
right now who are
academia.
still in the struggle and the war or anything else like that. Is that the question, or is it, or is that or are you asking something else?
No, that is the question, but it would be both in academia and just in general living.
Gotcha. In journalism. Okay. All right. In journalism. Okay. I try not to be too long, but I wrote I wrote a book. Where is it? Okay. Um, I wrote a book called, and that's why I'm into truth, called The Resurrection of Truth from the Chains of Falsehood, in which I talk about what happened when truth used to rule the world. And I'm going to put in more material evidence, but I talk about when truth ruled the world, maybe the Green Sahara, I don't know. And then what happened when falsehood came and produced binaries, divided the whole into warring adversarial parts, for the purpose of greed and gain, and how the big lie took over the world, and I wrote the book 4 years before Trump, so I thought, prophecy, and but in the book I talk about ways that we have to restore truth, um, and not just restore it but maintain it, because that's the hardest part. You can bring it back, but how to maintain, as the brother who was talking earlier, he said something about having a difficulty accepting the fact. Once you see truth, once you have this notion of Egypt, and now you got to change it, and you've got to, and that's hard to accept. So it really talks about the fact that if we're going to do anything, it has to be internal as well as external. And what I say to people right now, because of my recent studies and experiences, that it's really important that we realize that we have to very consciously realize that operating in today's world that is controlled by white-bodied supremacy, is that it's a beast, that we are in the belly of the beast, and while we're in the belly of the beast, we can get out of the beast, but we also have to realize that we have the slime of the beast on us, and we all have drunk the Kool-Aid, and that so what we have to do is once we get out, that's only the first step. We have to deprogram ourselves. We have to get rid of the Kool-Aid. We have to do the antidotes, and we have to realize that white body supremacy is an addiction, and it's forever. I mean, and so we have to constantly just say, how do we get the toxins out of our body? And the toxins are the lies that we have begun about, that we've thought about ourselves or about our mate, our partner, or the world. We have these lies. We're supposed to live happily ever after. The man's supposed to do this. The woman's supposed to do all sorts of Western colonialized lies, and so we have to get rid of them. But it's inside work. We got to get rid of self doubt. We got to get rid of the imposter syndrome, because you wouldn't have because you got it in spite of the fact that you were black, not because of the fact that you were black. We have to get rid of all of those things, and we have to examine them and lay them on the table. And the negative, we have to basically understand that we have to, operate from, okay, I guess I want to say we have to operate from a place of gratitude, from a place of abundance and not assets. Even if we just got a little small space, it's still a first world problem. There's some people who don't even have space, who don't have a roof, who don't have life, who don't have family, and all this kind of stuff. And we're worried because we felt we had a microaggression or somebody, no, 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 no. Comparatively speaking, it's really important that we take time to reflect. I mean that, and well, I say two things. My advice to my young people that I work with right now are two things. One, it's really important to rest, digest, get rid of the
Oh, what?
She